Right then, we thought this was probably going to rear its head up at some point during this transfer window, and it has. And I don't know if I'm buying it or not. And I should be able to just dismiss this outright and go, it's not happening. But I couldn't do that last summer. And the reason I couldn't do it last summer is the reason I can't do it this summer. And the player in question is Frenkie De Jong. And why can't we just rule it out? Nothing happened last year. It was a load of old bollocks. I don't think it was a load of old bollocks last year. I think it was an extremely complicated situation. And despite the player saying he wants to stay, I don't think he did. And I'll explain to you why. So, as we know, Frenkie De Jong had a deferment of all of his payments. Now, I hope I don't need to go into detail about just how bananas Barcelona's finances are. They're $1 billion in debt, they generate $1 billion in revenue, and they've deferred all sorts of payments to players. Like the likes of PK are never going to get paid. He's on about 40 million, I believe, something like that. He's never getting that cash. They've got all sorts of different creditors. They've sold off their TV rights, 25% of their TV rights for the next 25 years. Just think of that. Auctioning off your future income, a quarter of your future income, when you can't realistically keep the lights on as it stands at the moment. All of that they're doing, and they're deferring payments left, right and centre. Now, Frenkie De Jong deferred his payment. He basically got minimum wage for a season just after COVID, and he is owed 17 million. And it's my belief that if he says he wants to leave, he ain't getting that cash. If he continues at the club and maybe can renegotiate his contract, he might get at least some of that cash. And it seemed to me like last summer, a lot of the conversations seemed to be like, well, United can have him if they pay what Barcelona owe him. And quite rightly, United was like, we're not fucking doing that. Just because the way you can't run a football club doesn't mean that we have to pick up the pieces for you. No, we're in a big enough state ourselves, let alone paying somebody else's debts. So I believe that the situation didn't get resolved then. I don't think Ten Hag would put himself in the position where he looks stupid for pursuing Frenkie De Jong if Frenkie De Jong wasn't, at least in private, giving him the eyes going, yeah, I'd like to be here. Now, obviously, all of the public statements that are coming out of Frenkie De Jong were, I'm happy here, I want to stay here, I want to continue. And that hasn't changed. There's been a little bit of a development. So there is a journalist, I think he's Barcelona-based, called Arshaf Ben Ayad, right? And he did a tweet late last night, saying Barcelona needs to sell players. Now, we knew that. That's every single summer for them at the moment, is an absolute fire sale of players because their wages are bananas, their transfer costs are bananas, their debt is bananas, and there's an FFP thing in La Liga, means they can't register players unless they get right underneath it. So it says, in addition to some well-known names, Frenkie's options should also not be ruled out if a special offer arrives. The obstacle so far, the player wants to continue. So at the moment, I don't know enough about what's going on with Frenkie De Jong's payment and what he's owed. I believe he's probably still owed all that money. Maybe he's back on his regular wage at the moment, but it doesn't catch up to what he was actually owed in the first place. Now, we sort of dabbled with this, it seems at least, in January. Or there was at least some talk of it. I don't know if that was for this summer or if that was for in January. But it came out of nowhere, this. The night of the FA Youth Cup final came out of nowhere. Journalist comes out and goes, 95% you're going to see Frenkie De Jong going to Manchester United. 95% is hella strong. It's not like 50-50 you might see United come in for him. 95% United are going to get Frenkie De Jong. That's what he was saying. That's really, really strong. So that tells me there's a couple of things in place. The player's up for it. The club are up for it. United are up for it. We can probably make a deal happen here, and he's gone in and said 95%. Now, obviously, the complex situation that exists because of Frenkie's deferred payments and how just an eye-watering amount of money that he's owed, I wouldn't expect any player to just say, nah, I'll leave that, thanks. As much as you're like, well, they've got enough. I mean, yeah, he's going to be all right for the rent, I imagine. But it's still an eye-watering amount of money. And it isn't fair. He signed a contract, and Barcelona have just shafted him. So, for United to come back in again for him this summer, for there to be some talk that United could come back in again for him this summer, which his tweet doesn't suggest, by the way, but immediately everyone has just jumped to Manchester United. I think there's got to be some sort of a dialogue between Ten Hag and Frenkie on a one-to-one basis. I think that's definitely happening. And I don't think United would bother making themselves look stupid if there wasn't some validity to our attempt. So I can't just sit here and go, nah, that's a load of bollocks, and it's definitely not happening. Barcelona can do wild things. Like, look at Barcelona, remind me of Chelsea a little bit at the moment, where transfer-wise, so much chaos is going on that you just think, yeah, I could really see that happening. It doesn't matter what it is with Chelsea at the moment. I could see it happening. Whatever it is with Chelsea, I could say, yeah, I could buy that. That'd probably happen. So I don't know if United have got that sort of money anymore. If it's 85 million, which it was rumoured to be last year, you're talking, that's your Casado money. That's only a little bit more than what Chelsea want for Mason Mount. If you give me the choice of Mason Mount or Frenkie De Jong, there is zero choice whatsoever. Frenkie comes into this team, knows exactly what the gaffer wants. The gaffer knows exactly what he's about. That would be the absolute first choice buy. I just don't think there's enough in that report linking him to United at the moment. But Barcelona are a slippery little snake. And I think that they could have someone leave at any point, under any circumstances. And I think if United put 85 million back on the table for him, I think you'd get him. And I think the only thing that would prevent you getting him would be his contract situation. And I don't know if that's been updated or changed at all from last season when they owed him somewhere in the region of £17 million. If that can be resolved, I don't see why Frenkie wouldn't come to United. And I know every single person that was going to comment now, he said he wants to stay. I know. And I still sit here telling you this. He said he wants to stay, but I think that's because of his contract situation. I don't think United come in as strong as we did last year for him. I don't think Ten Hag makes himself look as stupid as he potentially could have done last season, chasing someone who's publicly stating he doesn't want to come. You look dumb, right? So I think he only does that if he's privately been given the eyes and privately been told, yes, actually, if we can resolve this contract situation, we'll come and join you at United. So that's my thoughts on it anyway, at least. Let me know in the comments. Aside from what the player is saying publicly, do you think that there's any chance that United go in for him on this one? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in a bit. And we'll see what else breaks today, because I've just got a feeling something else is going to pop off today. Whether it's owners or transfers or whatever, I've just got a feeling something else is cooking today. See you in a bit.